Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session from the FIGI seminar. It is entitled Digital Financial Inclusion in Mexico, Experiences and Key Learnings. The Financial Inclusion Global Initiative, FIGI, is a partnership between the World Bank Group, the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure of the Bank for International Settlements, apologies, and the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. This is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to support and accelerate the implementation of country-led reform actions to meet national financial inclusion targets and ultimately the global universal financial access goal. FIGI funds national implementations in 3 countries, China, Egypt, and Mexico. It supports working groups to tackle 3 sets of outstanding challenges for reaching universal financial access: electronic payment acceptance, digital ID for financial services, and security infrastructure and trust. And it also hosts the symposium. This is the 3rd and final edition of the FIGI Symposium. The FIGI Symposium provides a forum for dialogue amongst telecom and financial sector authorities, financial service providers, digital financial services providers, digital financial services, DFS, and related stakeholders to share experiences and perspective on scaling up DFS. This session aims to explore policy approaches employed in Mexico to enhance digital financial inclusion, also results and lessons learned. The session is broken into 2 parts. First, together with the CNBV of Mexico, we will explore digital financial inclusion from the perspective of the financial sector, including a presentation by its president and a session on Q&A. Afterwards, there will be a second 30-minute session, which will be held by our ITU colleagues to explore financial inclusion perspectives of IFT. Access to finance is really the first step to economic mobility. It allows people to send and receive payments. It opens the door to other financial services such as savings, credit, and insurance. Yet, as many of you connected today know, in 2017, 1.7 billion adults worldwide, roughly 1 out of 3, did not have access to finance, even though 2/3 own their own mobile phones. Harnessing innovation really can help. Over the past few years, we have witnessed Mexico establish a unique fintech law and issue related secondary regulations to responsible enable innovation. Investments in their new mobile payment system platform, CODI, has also facilitated individuals, businesses, and governments to conduct instantaneous and low or zero cost digital payments. New regulations on digital ID has helped to quickly include more vulnerable Mexican consumers in the formal financial sector during the COVID pandemic. Much of these efforts have culminated in Mexico's new financial inclusion policy, PNIF, issued in March 2020, which works to advance cross-cutting financial inclusion issues around the country. Today, it is our pleasure to have with us President Juan Pablo Graf of the Comisión Nacional Bancaria de Valores of Mexico to discuss digital financial inclusion in Mexico and explore their core successes, challenges, and lessons learned from the perspective of the financial sector. We're very lucky to have President Juan Pablo Graf. He has worked not only at the CNBV, as currently the case, but also at the Banco de México, at the Secretaría de Hacienda y Crédito Público, the Treasury, and therefore can bring a holistic perspective, executing shared agendas across multiple institutions across the financial system and in order to achieve broader financial inclusion goals. With this, I would like to give the floor to President Graf, please.
Thank you very much, Jira. Good morning, everyone here. Good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are. It is my pleasure in the name of the Banking Commission in Mexico to be here. with you today. Thanks very much to FIGI for the invitation to participate in this symposium. And as Gira has said, it's my intention to walk you through some of the main policy measures that have been taken in Mexico in the last few years, and more recently in the last few months, regarding digital financial inclusion in Mexico. So I'll share some slides with you. These slides have been shared with the organizers and can be distributed, because they in some of them will have more detail that I can present here. So Gira, if you can confirm whether you can see the presentation now.
Yeah, you may want to put on presentation mode. Thank you.
Is that it? Great. So I would like to talk today about some of the main measures that are going on in Mexico regarding digital financial inclusion. So the presentation will be divided in the topics that you see in this first slide. It's we'll be talking about what Gira has already mentioned about our fintech law and how's it evolving the fintech industry in Mexico after enacting the fintech law 3 years ago now. Then we'll be talking about digital onboarding and measures taken, especially for the banking and other non-bank financial intermediaries, different to the fintech firms that will be dealt with in the first part. And then we'll move to our regime on open finance and the steps that have been taken and the steps that are coming in the rest of this year. No, we'll see how these digital initiatives have been shaped or will be shaped by what has happened during the last 15 months of COVID. And I'll close up the presentation talking about some of the risks that we have been identifying, and I think it's not only the case of Mexico, but it's also the case of many countries. Digitalization has been accompanied with some prominent risks that should be mentioned, should be dealt with. So starting with the fintech law in Mexico, there was as in many other countries, a lot of activities related to the use of new technologies in the financial system. And there was a lot of expansion of services, many firms appearing and starting doing different activities. So Mexico decided to regulate those companies that were appearing in the technology, in the financial industry, using new technologies. No, so in 2018, fintech law was enacted in Mexico and built on 6 main principles of inclusion, protection, and protection of data, and so on. But the main issue, the main themes that are regulated in this law are the specific some specific legal figures and some specific processes that will be developed in the coming years to complete our fintech environment. No, so if we start with the creation of 2 new financial institutions in Mexico, those are the crowdfunding institutions and the electronic payment funds institutions, the so-called the wallet services. No, so the crowdfunding institutions as known all over the world to connect supply and demand for credit, for financing, for equity financing. So this is the first type of fintech institutions created in the law. The second is the electronic payment funds institutions for the issuance, administration, transmission, and redemption of electronic payment funds, with the main uses in e-commerce, fund transfers, P2P payments, and payment of services. No, but it was identified that there was too much demand for these services. So those were the two financial institutions that this law governs, that this law regulates together with secondary regulation. But the law doesn't stop on telling that how those institutions can be created, regulated, and supervised. But it also goes on to open up the banking services, the banking data, financial data, but by customers to be shared with others, so that the best financial decisions, financial access to financial services are best supplied by financial entities. So we are creating this regime of open banking, open finance in the financial system, no? And we'll be dealing with this in more detail shortly. Of course, and as in many other countries, because we didn't know exactly how the system was going to evolve, we set up also a regulatory sandbox to watch and to invite other participants to try within a regulated, lightly regulated, but well designed framework to test innovative models that are outside the institutions that I have already referred to. And our fintech law also dealt with the virtual asset operations. And I'll come back to this shortly, but basically it says that fintech institutions and other financial institutions such as banks or broker dealers will be able to operate with virtual assets that are authorized by the central bank. So far, none of these virtual assets or coins have been approved by the central bank. So the financial institutions and the fintech institutions cannot operate with virtual assets up to now. So if we move now, so this is the framework that we have for the fintech that is set up in our law. And here we mention some of the expected benefits of that we are aiming at with all these activities. No, we aim to lower financial cost and provide better investment returns compared to traditional savings and investment options available in the market. No, we aim also to have options for small and medium-sized enterprises and the entrepreneurs that are looking for funding resources to start their businesses and expand their current ones. No, we are also expecting that fintech addresses people's need to receive for payment transactions, to receive and transfer money, as well to pay services and buy groceries, especially on bank and underserved people with these initiatives. No, and last but not least, this electronic platform for payments also can make it possible for alternative means for transfer of remittances in an easier and faster ways to helping to lower people's cost moving and traveling long distances to receive their remittances. No, so these are the expected benefits. So we're working, starting already by the end of 2019 in the process of licensing this type of firms. So as you can see, up to now, but this is moving quite fast. We're dealing with 94 licenses that are being analyzed. 43 of them are undergoing process, and others have been resolved either positively or negatively in this process. No, out of the 94 licenses, 60 of them are for e-money, the electronic payments platforms, and 34 of them are for crowdfunding. And as I tell you, this is a fast-moving agenda, not only in terms of how we are in Mexico undergoing the authorization process, but also because as we move, some other licenses are coming. Some new applications are coming. So if I was going to tell you this number of 94 would be something around 90 in just 2 months ago. So this we are not only dealing with all those firms that were before the enactment of the law and continued operating during these years, and now are formally authorized, are in the process of authorization formally, but also new entrants are putting their licensing on in front of us. This process is dealt with together with the Ministry of Finance and the central bank. This license is an activity that is being processed by the three authorities within a special committee that takes these decisions. No, but as you can see, this is very important, and it's been a big challenge in Mexico, because we want to be sure that all the entities that we approve have strong systems to manage the information they're going to receive. They have very, very safe systems that cannot be attacked by cyber attacks, and they have all the information that they're going to receive from their customers well managed and well kept. No, I should say it also that this has been very important, because as in many other parts of the world, there's been this fever to use new technologies in the financial system. So some other companies have appeared announcing themselves as a fintech providers, or so-called new banks, challenger banks, and all these things. But it is important to be very clear that there has to be a legal framework under which this can operate. And we have had to in our process of supervision and reviewing the progress and how firms actually enter the market, that they have to be under some of them that apply to these activities that are reserved financial activities in Mexico. So they have to apply for a license. No, so other firms that are, I would say, under this fever to use the new technology have opened up financial so-called financial firms to attract people to invest in these platforms, or start using these platforms outside the regulatory perimeter that we have set up with the law. So other activity that is not shown in this graph is the way that we have to go and check that everyone is under the following our rules. So there's been also the closure of some other companies, just a few that have been active outside the regulatory perimeter, together with the sanctions that have to be imposed on this. No, so this has been very demanding for the Banking and Securities Commission here in Mexico, since we have to be dealing with those that are operating under the regulatory framework, but also in some other firms that were operating outside and attracting people's money for investment in equities or some kind of loans. So we have been very clear that this is not possible in Mexico. There's been a very important reaction by those banks established in Mexico for many years. I remind people there are 51 banks licensed in Mexico operating, and they are also using new technologies and starting to invest heavily in technology to also be in this new era of financial digital inclusion. No, so we have seen some of the major banks in Mexico making investment, making alliances with some fintech firms, and looking also for new platforms to provide their services, and using especially in the area of payments, they are making substantial investments and new innovative financial services, especially in the area of payments. So this been it's also the banks are also demanding that our regulatory regime is sufficiently flexible enough for them also to adopt technologies and use new technologies to conduct this financial inclusion, digital financial inclusion. So this has also been a challenge in Mexico for our regulatory framework for those well-established financial intermediaries, especially banks, non-bank deposit-taking institutions, brokerage firms that want also to evolve and have a more digital relationship with their customers. So just to give you an example on terms of digital onboarding, also for checking accounts, for deposit accounts, or for loans, our regime has been evolving in the very recent period. I give just some few examples here in the last 4 years on how this has been changing on digital onboarding. So we started with a regime of that banks could open their digital accounts. I repeat, either for deposit or for loans, with some restrictions, like a real-time video recording was mandatory to validate clients' data previously filled out in a form. And there were some restrictions that have been evolving recently with changes in our regulation. So this is to give the incumbents, the main financial intermediaries in Mexico, also the opportunity to increase digitalization in financial services. So this is just to give you an example of this. Also, they just for the entering of cash into the banks, they have also reached and increased aggressively the number of banking agents in the country. So today, more than 70% of the municipalities in Mexico have at least one banking agent. These are important because these are the points of entry that replace traditional branches for cash in, cash out, and also for other kind of services. So as you can see in this graph, this has been a very important increase, no, on these financial agents, and some of these are in the area of retailers in Mexico. For those that know a bit of Mexico and other countries, those are kind of retailers that are often in major cities, and they sell groceries and all things, but they tend to manage cash, so they are a point of entry of some services, basic services like deposit or withdrawals of cash, but also for paying services of people, for paying electricity, water supply. All those bills can be paid in this banking agents. So this is a very important development also. No? Also, to make all this possible, our regulation, our framework for the digital identification, it has been evolving with clear milestones and specific plans that are included in our national policy of financial inclusion, announced in March last year, just before we launched this policy just before the pandemic. So this is we have strong objectives and measures that we want to adopt for financial digital ID can become a reality. No, and together with this, we continue to accept across the financial system some identity cards that the main identity card in Mexico at the moment that is used for identification is our electoral card that is issued for millions of Mexicans, but just above 18 years old. So this is changing, and banks are accumulating more and more on their customers biometrics, the biometric information to construct and to have all the banking customers well identified, but digitally. No, so this is something that is evolving quite quickly in Mexico with technology as well. No, so let me move to the other part of our fintech law objective, is to have this regime of open finance and allow the financial data of customers to be shared with the prior consent of customers, to have this data shared with by financial institutions with others, or others developing this application programming interfaces, the APIs, so that this data can be shared. No, we are talking here about that banks and other financial intermediaries are obliged to share, and I insist again, with the consent of customers, the data that they have. This could be open data or aggregated data, like the location of branches or location of other financial services. But then, and this has been what we have done in the last few months. But in the coming months, we're moving to enact our regulation for the sharing of transactional data, starting first with deposit data, with checking accounts, saving accounts, and then moving to credit accounts of customers. And this is going to be a big challenge in Mexico, in at least in two respects: the technological challenge and how this data can be efficiently shared by institutions with the best technology available. So we have to set up a technology or a framework, a regulation that is neutral in the technology that will be used, but also setting some specific layouts on how data has to be shared with others. No, there will be data providers, the main financial institutions in Mexico, but data requesters, in addition to all these institutions, they can also be third parties specialized in IT systems that can handle these services. No, importantly, there's a discussion on our law makes it possible and to make for financial intermediaries that will will share the data of customers to make a charge for this, and this is gonna be an important part of our discussion, no? But so what is the benefits that we expect of this open finance? That consumers can discriminate and choose more easily between services. Small service businesses could have better conditions to access loans with greater ease and lower cost. People that currently do not have access to financial systems can have them. And fintech and other companies can be more competitive and reach new markets, no? So more people can be included financially in Mexico, no? But we see, as I said, some risks here, and the security of transactional data may be at risk if information leaks occur, and may affect both the entity that shares the data and the entity that uses this data, no? We are looking carefully at the use, at the methods that are not considered safe to consult information. So some methods have been advanced, such as screen scrapping, and this kind of methods, innovative methods, have to be evaluated constantly and in detail, no? And it's a challenge for us, since at the beginning we lacked technical and supervisory skills to keep API standards. But we're working with industry and working with other authorities, we're coming up to the job to understand the dynamics of the markets here, and the business case that some of these data providers using technology are trying to put in place in Mexico, no? So in terms of how is this gonna evolve, there are basically 4 phases that we'll be following here, and I already talked about it. Open data, such as ATMs and branches, was our first step. Those having these services have to give the data in the open space, and this regulation came into force very recently, no? A second phase, as I said, is the standardization of transactional data on banking deposits through the APIs. The regulation will establish the guidelines on security and architecture for the exchange of data. Third phase will be transactional information especially for credit accounts and for broker-dealer accounts of customers. And the fourth phase will be to issue regulation for other types of data, tentatively aggregated data as defined in the fintech law. So these are the phases that will be following in open finance, no? So with that on mind, these are the main steps that we're taking in the last few years, just before the pandemic came, the COVID-19, and so this has changed a lot the way things are evolving in Mexico, and as in many other countries. First thing, everything was accelerated because of people having to stay at home and working at home and making transactions at home. So all the digitalization came into place much faster, no? People and small and medium size are searching for alternative channels to perform financial transactions, and fintechs, we see that they could play a very important role in Mexico economic recovery through the innovative and disruptive financial products that they are supplying, no? These fintechs must take advantage of this new financial context and benefit come up with some services that they had just starting to plan before the pandemic, and all those plans had to be accelerated. So the use of electronic means of payments have increased. No, just to show you some data on this. For instance, on card payments, what you can see here is the trends of number of transactions to the left and amount of transactions with cards, be either credit cards or debit cards, in two forms. Those that are called here in this graph present and non-present. This means that how transactions, number of transactions, and volume and value of transactions evolved since the beginning of the pandemic. And as you can see, for instance, to the left on the red line, the number of transactions with debit and credit cards with the customer being present in front of the commerce declined very importantly, up to 50% by March last year. Very important contraction that recovered gradually, and just very recently we are coming up to the number of transactions of present. In contrast, those transactions that with people being non-present have it started increasing immediately with the pandemic. If you see the graph by May 20, we had already like 30% increase from the data on December 19 of transactions, and that continue increasing and has stabilized more recently as the social distancing has eased and the pandemic has started to have lesser effects, so people can start moving again, and you can see that the line on the top has flattened a bit. No, so this is what is happening with electronic payments. So let me close by with the last slide before going to the conclusions. Very important, of course. With digitalization has come two major risks. One already referred to, that is the appearances of so-called fintech companies that are not under the law, or activities that some people that wanted to promote their fintech activities outside the regulatory perimeter, and that was a very important risk. And we've been on top of it, identifying platforms that are outside our regulatory perimeter and sanctioning them. No, and the other one is the increase, the important increase of fraud in transactions, with identity theft and other types of frauds, especially cybernetic. We call that cyber criminals have learned how to steal some especially the information that customers use to access their accounts, with some special and well established social engineering that we call, that is very special for these people to get on customers' data, no, and customer access to their accounts. So this has been a very important development in Mexico, as in many parts of the world, and we are dealing with this in especially our Authority for Financial Protection, Conducef, has been making very strong campaigns for people to protect their keys to access their accounts through the internet, through the mobile phone, and banks also making a big effort here. No, but this is also some work in progress, that and we are also reviewing our regulation here, so as to make the digital access to accounts safer for customers in Mexico. So let me conclude by stating the main messages I wanted to give here. So we have adopted a series of policies to increase financial inclusion through digital means in Mexico, and COVID has accelerated the pace of adoption of financial services. Our policy launched last year is very relevant to give a framework for us to conduct our policies together with the Ministry of Finance, the other financial regulatory commissions in retirement accounts, saving accounts, insurance. Together with all of them, several strategies are currently developed to continue our policy of financial inclusion. And I have said that digitalization has come up with some risks that access and users of financial products and services face these risks, and we have to be very aware that these are also growing, and we have to take the measures to mitigate such risks. So with that, Gira, I stop here and happy to take some questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Juan Pablo. This is a fascinating presentation and also impressive agenda that Mexico has launched in the last several years, and I'm really glad to see some of the results that are already materializing. It's it's very encouraging. I thank you again for joining us on this, but we have the luxury of 15 minutes of discussion. I want to encourage the audience to send questions if you have through the Q&A function, which is on the toolbox below. We will get to those as we have time, but also we can follow up later on if needed. I would like to start with a few questions of our own, just to give you a sense of what we're thinking when we hear you. I realize that you have a very comprehensive package for reforms in this agenda, but I wonder what would be the fintech innovations that you think will be the most effective or have been more effective to enable more vulnerable people to access formal financial services in Mexico? Over to you.
Thank you, Ira. I guess it's a combination of factors, as I already said. These fintech payment platforms that are being set up and authorized by us in the Commission have been a big mover here, and there are many initiatives here by some big and medium-sized national, international players here that are in the space of retailers and other services that have constant contact with people, with customers on a daily basis, that they sell products either on groceries or online, and some other financial services now that we are now very much used to, and those have contact, especially with the that part of the population that do not have access to the financial system. So those services are providing a new opportunity for this financial inclusion. But as I said, banks are also using technologies, and investing importantly in new technologies and making alliances with other companies that have more presence in retail markets. And I'm sure that this combination of development of a financial technology industry that came with the possibility of new technologies that in Mexico is being regulated, as I already explained, together with our traditional financial services providers, is giving us good opportunities. Specific data on how is this changing, we don't have, because this will be taking part. But one of an important part of our policy is to measure all these things. No, so we have our national survey on financial inclusion that is conducted every 3 years. So this year we'll be conducting our fourth survey, and this is important because it allows us to move how things are changing. No, so we'll be having this survey this year, and I guess by early next year we'll have more precise data on how these things are changing in Mexico. No.
Yeah, no, we look forward to that data, definitely, and you know, at least we'll give a little bit of time since the pandemic and the passing of the laws and so on, to get some early results. We did see some of the nice results in your graphs, you know, about the usage. That was quite impressive. In terms of the response from the fintech market, clearly there was a lot of interest, based at least on the licensing requests and so on. But what has been the response to the actual law and regulations? Was there a need to do some corrections? What's your kind of like your advice for other countries that may be thinking about this approach, that you can share from your Mexican experience?
So again, the law became enacted in 2008, in March 2018, and it gave very short time for two things to happen immediately after. That was the first one was to issue secondary regulation on many services and security of systems and data. This had to be done in a short period of time. About some of these regulations came out already 6 months after March, by September 2018, and then others were given more space. No, one particular regulation that we dealt with, and I think it will continually be moving because services here are changing, is how the systems and the mainframes of these services will be provided. And here we are talking about cloud computing and all these services of data storage. That was the last. Well, not all of our regulation has been enacted, but this was particularly important, so as to be sure that they are completely new companies that had the opportunity to look for services provided by others. Especially the best example I can give here is the cloud services. No, that those banks already established in Mexico are also exploring these issues. But since they were already here before many of these things had started changing, they have their own premises. Or they provide their services in their own premises. No. So that is very important part, that it's completely, it is evolving quite rapidly, no? And as I told you, the other was very important, not a correction in the course, but we didn't expect so much demand. Probably there was already many firms, according to some measures, that they call themselves fintech firms. But we had to be very clear on this, that not anyone in Mexico can take money from customers in terms of deposits or investment in securities or these kind of things. So one correction here was to set up very clearly what is fintech and what is not fintech in Mexico, so that everyone came very clear on what can be done and what cannot be done.
Yeah, no, very useful. And indeed, it was a pretty intense demand, and in the middle of COVID. So, I mean, you had barely a year after that to deal with it. So I know it's been a challenge. How about in terms of the regulator, of the CNBV? It's very clear that the prioritization of digital financial inclusion was very, very targeted and well thought through. I'm wondering whether it changed the structure and function of the CNBV as a regulator, even if not beyond the formal. I mean, what has changed? How has the CNBV adapted to this new world?
Some few units were created, especially to handle some specifically. That we have a specific unit for supervision of those fintech firms that use. I was talking to in the presentation. So this, of course, a specific area for supervision of this, and also in the frame of technology, we had also specialized teams that were there already dealing with banks, but that they got more responsibilities, and the staff there they have been doing an excellent job of updating themselves on understanding the new technologies and how these firms have to operate, and how are they protecting themselves against cyber attacks and all these things. So I would say it was especially in the area of our normal supervisory activities that some few units were created within the CNBV already after the law came into force, and the technology. And of course, our area of a very strong area of our lawyers that conduct and coordinate all our work on issuing our regulation and coordinating the work of issuing authorization, reviewing the licensing processes and authorizations for such a big number of firms. No, and I repeat, this has been done in Mexico together with the central bank and the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, especially in the area of payments and also on crowdfunding, that have devoted also a lot of resources together with the Ministry of Finance since the law came into effect. So we three authorities, and I'm talking here for these fintech activities that I talk about, but there is also developments going on, especially in insurance, and the National Commission for Insurance is also taking steps in this direction. No?
Thanks. Speaking of regulation, we got a question from the floor. When do you envision the next phase of open banking regulation to be issued, that is transaction deposit account? And what are the main motivations to move the sharing of aggregated data initially included under phase 2 to phase 4?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the next phase, as I gave in the slide, I don't know if there was the specific date. Let me just check here. On the transaction data has to be on the deposit. It is to be issued this year. No, we and then by the beginning of next year will be the third phase. The third phase on credit data. No, and as the participant correctly asked, that we moved to the fourth phase, the aggregate data, because we saw more benefits and more potential benefits on the transactional data, and more challenges to on this area that had to be dealt with more importantly at the moment. Now, aggregate data is also important for analysis, for research, and all these things, but this open finance issue, it is mainly about transactional data, where this data can be shared for the benefit of customers. No, so we have banks already, banks and other non-bank financial taking institutions and development banks in Mexico asking us that they want to have more information from small and medium-sized enterprises. So they are all the time asking us, when are we setting up or releasing these regulations so that they can be taken? Because more information that small and medium-sized enterprises can share with others, they can get better services, no, in credit and cash management and all these things, no? So I think that sets priority better to have more emphasis on transactional data. And again, for the end of this year, no, for the last, say, between the third and the beginning of the fourth quarters this year, deposit data, and then by the early next year, credit data. No?
Okay. Okay, no, thanks for that. I noticed in your presentation on the cybersecurity issues, it was quite interesting for me to see that the risks in your graph were mostly, I think, 93% or something on e-commerce, which is, you know, it's very interesting in itself. More than mobile accounts, mobile, you know, it's kind of like interesting to see where the criminals, if you will, are focusing. Do you have any comments on that? Any issues that you have seen that could illuminate that area?
Well, as I said, and as I showed the graphs, the e-commerce in terms of number of transactions and value of transactions increased very rapidly with the COVID, and probably this has taken by surprise firms and authorities all over the world, no? And well, this started happening, and then if you or the banks making a very strong communication initiatives and campaigns to tell customers how things happen and whether never to share their data. No, that was very important. I guess it was the main responsibility, and firms, especially banks, reacted swiftly and very rapidly. Also prompted by our consumer protection authority, Conducef, that was also very strong on this, on making campaigns and communication on this, no, and we're looking at it, and we already issued some changes in the regulations to make this for banks to have safer processes and safer systems. No?
Yeah, no, it's very tricky business. We're coming to the end of the session, but for me, it's a luxury to have you not only in your current capacity, but because you have been at the Banco de Mexico, at the Central Bank, you have been at the Ministry of Finance, you know, and now at the CNBV. What have these experiences taught you about effective coordination approaches across financial sector authorities and others, like the ICT regulator or the Consumer Protection Agency? How does that help achieve shared policy objectives like financial inclusion, and what are the challenges?
Well, we had already established some forms of coordination and communication between authorities, especially, I would say there's some special committees that we work together, and we set evolving. We review our policies and how our policies are being applied, and analyzing the results of this. In this area, our main forum for coordination is the National Council for Financial Inclusion, that takes form with the chair by the Minister of Finance, with the participation of the Central Bank and the prudential regulators, the Conducef, the Consumer Protection Agency, and other authorities. And with a strong contact with the private sector, no. So that is the formal way of coordinating. We have of course, for the exchange of information, we have memorandums of understanding between the many of us. But I would say that it relies also in interpersonal relationship, in strong communication among officers in different parts, no. And we for many years, as I guess as in many other countries, in Mexico, there's been always very strong contact between the Minister of Finance, Central Bank, and the prudential regulators, no. and that was tested with the pandemic itself, because those meetings that used to take place face to face went to these platforms, and I think we managed to do it nicely, no, and on working on this respect, no. But I think the history of strong relationship between the commissions has worked out, has served us very well to do with this, no.
Yeah, no, it certainly helps the other part as well. So with that, I would like to thank you for this great session. It's been very, very interesting and useful to learn more details about the Mexican case. We'll all be watching for sure, because this is just the beginning in a way. And I want to give you the opportunity for closing words. And then before I close the session, please go ahead. Thanks a lot.
No, Gira, I thank you and FIGI for this opportunity for us to share the important work that is being done in Mexico in the area of financial inclusion, and also with experience of the our institution that has been doing this very, very challenging work in challenging times, no. And I think as our colleagues here have done a magnificent work together with others in keeping up with these efforts in this area, no. But thank you very much for letting us sharing these experiences, and look forward for learning from others and discussing in your forum all these important issues. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Best wishes. I know this is not an easy task. With that, we'll close the session. But before that, just be sure to tune in tomorrow, Tuesday, June 15th, for our FIGI session of this round, the role of central banks in enhancing cyber resilience in the financial sector, which is very topical from the presentation we just heard. With that, I want to thank each and every one of you again, and wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I would hand it over to my colleagues from the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, to further explore insights from the perspective of Mexico, now from the ICT sector. Sophie, the floor is yours. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And indeed, I'm happy to start off the second part of the session. So I would encourage people to stay in the session. So this really looks at how to leverage ICTs for digital financial inclusion. We all know that in a fast-changing digital world, ICT regulators need to keep abreast of new approaches, new tools, speed up and streamline regulatory processes, and enhance collaboration. We heard about collaboration from the previous speakers. While the regulatory basics still apply and core regulatory mandates still need to be thoughtfully used, the job of the ICT regulator requires new skills and new thinking to create an enabling environment, attract investment, and ensure access for all in a safe, secure, and informed manner. And that is relevant too for digital financial inclusion. So the pace of transformation demands a new regulatory strategy that includes all stakeholders of all sizes and backgrounds and industries. Digital finance and digital financial services are revealing complex relationships between telecom ICT and financial market regulators, and hence questions about the relationships between regulations of these markets. If we look at ICT demand and supply stimulation, it requires a multifaceted approach, including strategies to create an awareness of ICTs across the sectors and towards end users, so as to help leverage ICT to progress towards achieving, amongst others, digital financial inclusion. And digital finance functions best within a specific technical and policy environment, where one takes into consideration the needs across the sectors and develops and promotes the necessary support systems and appropriate policies to allow for sustainable investment. If we look at DFS and DFI, it requires data confidentiality, reliable means to verify people's identities, but also network availability and security, including in remote areas, and solutions to make electronic payments attractive to all people. So understanding these interrelationships is vital. Yet telecom, financial, and competition regulators, consumer protection agency, they bring different objectives, knowledge, legacy prejudices, and overlapping powers to the job. Through FIGI national implementation in Mexico, we've had the unique opportunity to join forces across the sectors and create that enabling environment that supports an inclusive ecosystem for DFI. The dialogue we, together with EFT, have fostered over these last 4 years has provided the basis by which we can achieve and improve affordable financial services, including in unserved and underserved areas. So to turn to our distinguished speaker, Commissioner Sostenes Diaz-Gonzalez. EFT have really encouraged and brought together stakeholders to collaborate with each other. I remember being in Mexico just before the pandemic hit, where we had a fabulous roundtable so that we could collaborate, engage and communicate with the private sector and digital platform providers so that together we can leverage ICTs for digital financial inclusion. Commissioner, can you give us some more background on the different initiatives that EFT has promoted on progress towards such collaboration? Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Buenos días a todos. Primero que nada, me gustaría agradecer por esta invitación. Es un gusto compartir este espacio contigo, Sofi, y con Rodrigo, para platicar la experiencia del Instituto Federal de Telecomunicaciones sobre esta iniciativa, la Iniciativa Global de Inclusión Financiera.
Excuse me, I have to interrupt you. I don't have English interpretation. Let me check, please, again. Yeah, now I can hear, but I haven't heard before. Thank you. Excuse me, can you start again from the very beginning? Thank you.
Sí, sí, muchas gracias. Mencionaba que es un gusto compartir este espacio con Sofi y con Rodrigo para platicar sobre la experiencia del Instituto Federal de Telecomunicaciones sobre esta iniciativa, la Iniciativa Global de Inclusión Financiera, FIGI, en México, específicamente en México. Esta iniciativa, como bien menciona Sofi, la firmamos en febrero de 2019, firmamos un acuerdo de cooperación con la OIT para la implementación precisamente de esta iniciativa. Uno de los motivos que nos animó como instituto a firmar esta iniciativa es justamente porque sabemos del impacto que tienen las tecnologías de la información y la comunicación, las famosas TIC, en otros sectores de la economía. Sabemos que tienen un impacto transversal y en específico sabemos que se pueden utilizar como una herramienta para acelerar el crecimiento específicamente de los servicios financieros digitales. Entonces, también parte importante de esta iniciativa es que sabemos que el desarrollo de la inclusión financiera digital tiene que hacerse a través de la colaboración entre diferentes autoridades. Y justamente este principio de colaboración entre autoridades, nosotros como instituto ya lo hemos incorporado en los principios que guían nuestra actuación. Y esto lo hemos hecho de manera concreta y lo hemos hecho de manera formal, puesto que en diciembre del año pasado emitimos un documento que se llama Hoja de Ruta 2021-2025. En este documento plasmamos la visión de trabajo del instituto y establece las agendas que van a guiar nuestra actuación hasta el 2025. Son agendas tácticas y de estas agendas hay dos precisamente que se refieren al tema de inclusión financiera digital. Estamos incorporando una agenda para la promoción de la inclusión financiera. Esta agenda ahorita es un conjunto de principios y en el futuro inmediato o en el mediano plazo se verá materializada a través de acciones o proyectos que el instituto lleve a cabo. También tenemos una agenda de promoción y adopción por parte de las pequeñas y medianas empresas, las famosas MIPYMES, sobre el uso y beneficios de las plataformas digitales, las cuales desde luego incluyen plataformas de servicios financieros y comercio electrónico. ¿Qué es lo que estamos viendo nosotros en el tema de servicios financieros o por qué lo incluimos en nuestra agenda? Lo que nosotros creemos es que si se lleva a cabo un proyecto exitoso de inclusión financiera digital, esto permitiría la prestación de servicios financieros que fueran asequibles y seguros, especialmente para ese segmento de la población que hoy se encuentra excluida de los servicios, en lo cual les permitiría acceder a servicios financieros como ahorros, pagos, créditos, seguros y otros como los que ya ha mencionado el presidente Graf en esta mañana. ¿Cuál es la responsabilidad que tenemos nosotros como regulador de telecomunicaciones? ¿Cuál es la responsabilidad del instituto? Pues somos la autoridad encargada de regular las cuestiones específicamente que tienen que ver con el despliegue de las infraestructuras de telecomunicaciones. Regulamos también la calidad de los servicios. Tenemos que vigilar la seguridad que se da por esas redes de telecomunicaciones. En algunos casos estamos involucrados en temas de protección al consumidor. Vemos temas de interoperabilidad entre redes y tratar de que se promueva el acceso a servicios de telecomunicaciones. Y ya hablando más de temas concretos sobre lo que se ha llevado a cabo en esta iniciativa, en el marco del acuerdo que hemos firmado con la OIT, pues como bien mencionaba Sofi, se organizó un taller de regulación colaborativa en febrero de 2020. Y justamente este taller tuvo el objetivo de intercambiar experiencias sobre la importancia de las políticas públicas para fomentar la inclusión financiera digital. En este taller que se organizó en el instituto, se contó con la participación de funcionarios públicos de otras instituciones, en especial mencionaré los de las instituciones encargadas del sistema financiero mexicano. Estuvo gente de Banco de México, de la Comisión Nacional Bancaria y de Valores, de la CONDUCEF, que es el regulador de defensa de usuarios financieros. No solamente ellos, también estuvieron gente de la academia, de organizaciones de la sociedad civil, estuvieron representantes de empresas de telecomunicaciones, del sector bancario y de otras fintech que también nos compartieron sus puntos de vista. Como parte de este taller se reconoció esta necesidad que tenemos los reguladores de telecomunicaciones y de otros servicios financieros, de que tenemos que colaborar unos con otros. Por lo tanto, esta fue digamos, la principal conclusión. Entonces, estamos tratando de alentar el trabajo conjunto y el diálogo entre instituciones para desarrollar y elaborar normas y directrices y promover la utilización de las herramientas y tecnologías innovadoras de las telecomunicaciones, para ver qué camino podemos tener para incrementar la penetración de la inclusión financiera digital. Otro evento que surgió de esta iniciativa es que se llevó a cabo en noviembre pasado de manera virtual, la Clínica de Seguridad y Calidad de Servicio. Esta tenía como objetivo permitir el intercambio de experiencias e información relativas a indicadores clave de desempeño para la calidad del servicio de la red móvil, de servicios financieros digitales, amenazas, vulnerabilidades que afectan la confidencialidad de la información y la disponibilidad de servicios. Esto es importante porque no solamente importa que los usuarios estén conectados, también es importante la calidad con la que se conectan. Entonces, nosotros estamos siendo consistentes y en ese sentido contamos con una serie de lineamientos de disposiciones de regulación secundaria que emitimos en México, donde fijamos cuáles deben ser los estándares y los parámetros de calidad, tanto para las redes fijas y móviles, justamente para asegurar la calidad con la que se conectan los usuarios. Entonces, esas son, digamos, las iniciativas que se han llevado a cabo tanto en el marco de este convenio que hemos firmado, como también de las que el propio instituto por iniciativa propia ha promovido.
Thank you very much. Indeed, very useful initiatives. But it's not just about collaboration. It's also about connectivity. Can you give us some details on last mile connectivity efforts and how you see this contributing to digital financial inclusion? Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Sí, muchas gracias. La conectividad, pues, es la principal responsabilidad que tiene el instituto. Nosotros sabemos que los servicios de telecomunicaciones son la infraestructura subyacente para el desarrollo de toda la economía digital, y en especial de los servicios financieros digitales. Entonces, de ahí la importancia de su correcto desarrollo. En México, particularmente desde 2013, que fue la reforma de telecomunicaciones, se han llevado a cabo esfuerzos para promover la conectividad. De parte del instituto, lo que podemos mencionar es que nos hemos centrado en acciones regulatorias justamente para promover la competencia, y ese, digamos, ese desarrollo de la competencia ha tenido como resultado una fuerte reducción de los precios de los servicios, y por tanto una reducción de los precios ha llevado a una expansión de la banda ancha, tanto fija como móvil. Entonces, solamente para dar algunos elementos de información, en la actualidad la banda ancha móvil tiene una penetración de 80 líneas por cada 100 personas. Esto es un dato al cuarto trimestre de 2020. También en términos de telefonía móvil, tenemos que la población cubierta, es decir, la población que vive en zonas donde hay señal del servicio móvil, doy el caso nada más de la tecnología 3G, hay datos para otras tecnologías, pero por ejemplo para tecnología 3G, el 93.1% de la población vive en una zona cubierta por el operador principal, que es Telcel, el 77.9% vive en una zona cubierta por Telefónica, y el 79.5% por una zona cubierta por AT&T. Es decir, la mayor parte de la población en México vive en una zona que tiene cobertura del servicio móvil. Esto es importante también porque gran parte de las brechas que tenemos en la gente que no tiene el servicio no son precisamente por la indisponibilidad del servicio, son muchas veces brechas de poder adquisitivo. También en términos de servicio fijo, podemos ver que la penetración de banda ancha fija en hogares, medida por hogares, es de 62 accesos por cada 100 hogares al cuarto trimestre de 2020. También vemos que el 93% de los hogares con internet fijo, y esto es muy importante, tiene velocidades superiores a 10 megabits por segundo, es decir, no solamente importa que los hogares estén conectados, sino que también es importante saber que se están conectando a velocidades que son adecuadas para que puedan tener servicios de toda la economía digital, y también entre ellos, desde luego, los que se incluirán los servicios financieros digitales. En este punto me gustaría contrastar esta información con datos financieros, datos que provienen de la Encuesta Nacional de Inclusión Financiera. Esta es de 2018. En esta encuesta se mencionaba que 62.2 millones de personas que tenían teléfono celular, ese es dato de esa encuesta, el 51% contaba con un banco o con una institución financiera, es decir, el 49% restante no contaba con una cuenta en una institución financiera. También se mencionaba que el 22% contaba con banca móvil, y de los que no contaban con banca móvil, entre los principales motivos es que preferían los medios tradicionales. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que vemos aquí con esta información? Que existe un margen ahí entre personas que cuentan con servicios de telecomunicaciones o con servicios móviles, pero que no cuentan con servicios financieros. Entonces, de acuerdo a lo que nos dice la literatura, es justamente esa una de las condiciones en las cuales puede desarrollarse de manera exitosa los servicios financieros digitales. Seguramente, estos datos son de 2018, seguramente esto ha cambiado con todo lo que mencionó el presidente Graf en su presentación más temprano, con este impulso a las leyes de Fintech, y también seguramente tuvo una modificación con base en lo que hemos vivido en la pandemia, pero pues esos datos todavía no se han reflejado en la información que capturan las encuestas. ¿Cómo hemos llegado a estos niveles de cobertura? Pues se han llevado a cabo una infinidad de acciones regulatorias desde 2013 y desde antes, ¿no? Por mencionar algunas de las que tenemos actualmente en curso, Publicamos cada año el programa anual de bandas de frecuencias. Con esto tratamos de darle certidumbre al mercado acerca de cuál va a ser la política en el manejo y gestión de espectro, es decir, reglas claras para que la inversión venga y para que los usuarios y para que los operadores tengan certeza de cuáles van a ser las políticas. También se han llevado a cabo licitaciones de espectro. Por ejemplo, en la licitación que se denominó IFT7 y en la IFT10 se establecieron obligaciones de cobertura, es decir, se obliga a que el operador que gane esas frecuencias tenga que hacer inversiones específicas en aquellas zonas del país que no están atendidas. Entonces, una manera de promover la cobertura universal. También hemos emitido unos lineamientos para la compartición de infraestructura. Estos lineamientos tienen como objetivo abaratar los despliegues de infraestructura, permitiéndole a los operadores que compartan la infraestructura pasiva, que muchas veces es la parte más cara del despliegue de las redes. Entonces pueden compartir ductos, pueden compartir postes, pueden compartir torres, entre otros elementos, lo cual haría más asequible los servicios de telecomunicaciones. También tenemos en consulta pública en la página del instituto un anteproyecto para determinar qué es lo que se va a hacer con la famosa banda de 6 GHz, es decir, si esta banda se va a clasificar como espectro de uso libre o se va a utilizar, a reservar alguna parte para redes de quinta generación. Es una decisión que estará tomando el instituto en próximos meses y está abierta ahí la consulta. Entonces, solamente son algunas de las cuestiones regulatorias que hemos llevado a cabo para promover el desarrollo y despliegue de las redes de telecomunicaciones.
Muchas gracias, comisionado.
Thank you very much. May I now hand over to the next moderator, my colleague Rodrigo Robles, who's based in our office in Brasilia. Rodrigo, over to you.
Muchas gracias, Sofía. Muchas gracias, comisionado. Muy interesante las iniciativas que usted nos ha compartido. Pero para aprovechar eficazmente la infraestructura, también debemos conocer en dónde está. Parte del trabajo que hemos desarrollado en este proyecto con el IFT y con la Comisión Nacional de Banca y Valores ha sido superponer la información del sistema de pagos en los mapas de infraestructura de TIC que han sido desarrollados por la OIT. ¿Puede usted compartirnos más detalles de esta iniciativa y cómo considera usted que puede ayudar a alcanzar la inclusión financiera digital en México?
Sí, Rodrigo, con todo gusto. Como bien mencionas, gracias a esta iniciativa FIGI, hemos llevado diversos proyectos con la OIT y con la Comisión Nacional Bancaria y de Valores. Una de las actividades más importantes que tendremos por parte de la OIT será el desarrollo de este mapa de infraestructura de TIC, con información provista tanto por nosotros como Instituto de Telecomunicaciones, como por la Comisión Nacional y Bancaria y de Valores. ¿Qué es lo que ha hecho específicamente el instituto en este aspecto? El instituto proporcionó mapas de cobertura, los mapas de cobertura que tienen los concesionarios del servicio móvil. Estos mapas nos los entregan por una regulación secundaria que tenemos, que son los lineamientos que fijan los índices y parámetros de calidad a que deberán sujetarse los prestadores del servicio móvil. Los tenemos con un nivel suficiente de detalle. Los mapas de cobertura los entregan los concesionarios por tecnología de acceso, 2G, 3G y 4G. Y las zonas geográficas nos mencionan en dónde tienen esta cobertura, ya sea en México, localidades y municipios. Con esta información que entregan los concesionarios es posible identificar dónde se tiene acceso al servicio de Internet móvil y en su caso también es superponerla, como mencionas, para ver dónde se tiene acceso a determinados servicios financieros. Además de conocer qué operadores prestan el servicio en qué zona, también, por ejemplo, al tener la información desglosada por tecnologías, esto es de bastante utilidad porque distintos servicios financieros pueden requerir de distintos tipos de tecnología. Por ejemplo, las terminales de pago pueden funcionar perfectamente bajo cobertura de 2G, que solamente es leer los datos de una tarjeta y transmitir la información, pero algunas otras aplicaciones de banca digital, como las que se han estado desarrollando últimamente, pues requieren de un Internet más capaz, como redes de 4G o en último caso de 3G. Entonces, con esta información que tenemos en el instituto sobre las redes de telecomunicaciones, podemos superponer las coberturas de las zonas geográficas o las ubicaciones de interés, que en este caso son las que proporcionan las autoridades financieras, como pueden ser escuelas, hospitales, edificios públicos, y saber si estas ubicaciones son susceptibles de acceder a servicios financieros y también a saber a través de qué concesionarios pueden acceder a estos servicios financieros. Esto es con base en lo que ya se ha hecho y con base en información del servicio móvil. También es importante mencionar en este punto que se ha emitido también una regulación secundaria sobre los lineamientos que fijan los índices y parámetros de calidad a que deberán sujetarse los prestadores, pero en este caso del servicio fijo. Entonces, los prestadores del servicio de acceso a Internet fijo estarán obligados a la entrega de mapas de cobertura por tecnología de acceso, que en este caso serían cable de cobre, cable coaxial o fibra óptica, y con esta información será posible identificar las zonas en las que se puede acceder a servicios financieros a través del servicio fijo, y esto contrastarlo con los mapas de cobertura móvil y también contrastarlo con la información que se tenga a través de otros reguladores como la Comisión Nacional Bancaria y de Valores. Entonces, regresando al tema del servicio fijo, fue justamente esta la información que se compartió con la Unión Internacional de Telecomunicaciones y con la Comisión Nacional Bancaria, y esto permitirá el desarrollo de estos mapas interactivos que contengan información de las coordenadas de las sucursales y cajeros automáticos de la banca comercial, así como la cobertura del servicio de telecomunicaciones. Entonces, gracias a estas herramientas, le permitirá a nuestro país identificar dónde existen los servicios de telecomunicaciones, y con lo cual es información que será muy importante para tratar de eliminar las barreras para la inclusión financiera.
Excelente iniciativa, comisionado. Ya el tiempo se nos está terminando. En los últimos minutos y como mensaje final, quisiéramos preguntarle para ustedes, ¿qué acciones podríamos tomar conjuntamente, el IFT, la UIT y los otros socios en este proyecto para hacer que sea sostenible para el futuro y sobre todo para mantener esa buena colaboración que hemos logrado en estos últimos meses?
Sí, gracias, Rodrigo. Pues una de las principales lecciones que hemos aprendido con esta iniciativa ha sido la importancia de la regulación colaborativa, en especial en temas de economía digital y en este caso, de inclusión financiera digital. Yo creo que no puede ser solamente un regulador, sino que tienen que ser varios reguladores que converjan para tratar de impulsar este tipo de iniciativa. Entonces, en el futuro, primero estaremos esperando atentamente las recomendaciones de la Unión Internacional de Telecomunicaciones que nos dé al respecto para ver qué cuestiones tendremos que nosotros mejorar en nuestra regulación para impulsar desde nuestro lado el tema de los servicios de telecomunicaciones. Pero ya en el tema de hacer más concreta esta iniciativa, creo que tendríamos que tener una colaboración más estrecha ya con las autoridades de regulación financiera para tratar de hacer un intercambio de información un poco más profundo, digamos, tratando de mapear ya con información de ellos dónde están los usuarios, información de nosotros de dónde están los servicios de telecomunicaciones, dónde está la gente que está excluida de los servicios, tanto de telecomunicaciones como de servicios financieros, y de esta forma tratar de ver si con esta información tanto de nuestro lado de regulador de telecomunicaciones como del lado de los reguladores de servicios financieros se pueden plantear iniciativas más concretas acerca de cómo incluir a los excluidos hoy en día.
Muchas gracias, comisionado. Aprovecho a todos a invitarlos a que nos acompañen en los próximos días. Tendremos el Simposio Global de Reguladores, donde uno de los temas importantes será esa regulación de quinta generación, donde uno de los países que también está participando es México, y que la idea es estrechar los lazos, no solo en este caso en el sector financiero, sino para todos los sectores en donde las telecomunicaciones forman una parte importante. También quiero aprovechar, ya que se les presentará una encuesta para que ustedes la puedan llenar y pues darnos su retroalimentación sobre el desarrollo de toda la sesión. Finalizo agradeciendo al comisionado Sóstenes Díaz González en su calidad de presentador y también de representante del IFT por todo el apoyo que hemos tenido durante el desarrollo del proyecto. Desde el primer momento han sido unos socios que han trabajado hombro a hombro con nosotros. También a Sofi por su excelente moderación y su excelente apoyo en el desarrollo de la sesión. Así que, sin más, les queremos agradecer por su presencia y desde la Unión Internacional de Telecomunicaciones, tanto del sector de desarrollo como de normalización, estamos siempre para servirlos a ustedes. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.